Ladies and gents, welcome back to the vlog. My name is Drew and I am all sorts of cozy right now. I do a lot of my programming or a lot of my brainstorming and a lot of my work at night, and so I've taken to calling it cozy coding, and the attire for cozy coding is mandatory dog sweatpants, pajama pants, and a comfy t-shirt. So I don't think it gets any more authentic than that. I had some inspiration and I wanted to make a video and talk to you guys about a couple basic things that I think would help you along in your journey as you're starting a business or you're starting a software startup, whatever it is you're doing. And so far we've tackled a lot of topics. We've talked about how to brainstorm, how to get a good idea, how much time you should be devoting to your project, how much time it takes to put up a nice software project, and the technology that's required for that, and how you learn all of that. And after all that, chances are you probably have an idea of what you want to do with your business. So be it a lawn care business. I use these examples a lot, be it like a lawn care business or a salsa business or a chocolate business. I use these examples because I know people in my life that actually have done these kinds of businesses. With that, I think a lot of people, when they're first starting out or they're starting their first business, they kind of get stuck in this dogma that there's a lot of regulatory stuff, and to run a business successfully you need an MBA or you need to be a CPA and know all the ins and outs of business accounting and all that sort of stuff. And there is some truth to that. I mean, you do have to have some due diligence. You have to know some basic accounting principles to make sure that your books are clean and everything. But by no means do you have to go to business school to run a business, or do you have to have a CPA. There's people who have very little to no education past high school, nothing against them, but they run very successful businesses. And that's because the core knowledge base that you need to run a successful business, at least from an administrative side of things, is pretty straightforward, at least when you're starting out. And over these next couple of videos, I'm just going to dive into some of those basic business skills that you'll probably need as you're building your business and that sort of thing. Now, bear in mind, I'm not a CPA, I'm not an attorney, so take everything I say with a grain of salt. Regulations do vary from state to state, but I can at least give you my perspective and what we did with my company, Mechanics Codeworks, and hopefully you can apply some of those principles into your business or whatever you're working on. So, without further ado, this first video is going to be all about how to get your business kind of legit, or registered and everything like that, filing a DBA with your state, incorporating, all that good stuff. So whenever it comes to business, one of the first things that you should consider doing when you start making money or you start thinking about legitimizing your business or like going out and selling your product is to incorporate your business. And what incorporation does is it basically means that you register as a business entity with your state and the federal government. And that's just a big fancy way of saying that you put down on paper that you have started a business, your business name is this, and you are able to make sales and do business in that state as well as in the eyes of the federal government, because the government, you have to get taxed and everything like that. So we'll go into that here in a second. But because there's so much variance between state to state as far as registering a business goes, it's really, really hard to say generically the things that you have to do to start a business. But what I can give you some advice on is start networking right away. Generally, most every city in this country has a chamber of commerce. And what a chamber of commerce is it's basically a collection of business owners in that city, and they meet to network and to forward their business so that the overall economy of that city or the surrounding area gets bolstered or gets boosted up. So the Chamber of Commerce is basically a body that is in your city that is meant to help you as a business owner to meet other business owners and to share experience and that sort of thing. So first thing that I would recommend doing is definitely check out a local Chamber of Commerce. And if you live in a pretty small town, you don't know if you have a Chamber of Commerce, you may drive a couple blocks to the next town over and go to their Chamber of Commerce. Most Chamber of Commerces are pretty nice with each other. I live in North Texas in a city that's about 30 minutes north of Dallas, but I go down to the East Dallas Chamber of Commerce just because I like the people there. So we're friends of the East Dallas Chamber of Commerce. They're very, very nice, and so I go to their events every once in a while because I like them. It's not required that you be in that city, or at least for most Chamber of Commerces, you want to check with the body, but it's most of the time the case that you don't have to be doing business in that city to be a member of the Chamber of Commerce there. And typically with Chamber of Commerce's, there is a membership process, so you pay a couple bucks a year and you become a member of the Chamber of Commerce, and that gives you some certain perks, but most of the time they'll do free networking events. Like, I know the Chamber of Commerce in my city does networking every Wednesday morning, and you get to go to like 3 networking events before you have to register with the Chamber of Commerce. And believe me, that's plenty of time to get experience and to start getting to know people and scheduling meetings or doing whatever you need to do. On the other hand, if you go to the East Dallas Chamber of Commerce, you can go to most of their networking events for free because they open them to the public. So look for a Chamber of Commerce, see if you can find one that does free networking and does free networking regularly. And if you can't find one that's close to you, check the surrounding areas because you don't necessarily have to be in business in that city to go to that city's Chamber of Commerce. So that'd be my first recommendation. Go to a Chamber of Commerce. And what a Chamber of Commerce meetup will usually look like is there's usually a talk or something like that. Like when I go to the East Dallas Chamber of Commerce, they do like a happy hour and then they do a brunch every other week. So you're either getting free food or drinks or half off or something like that. If you're of drinking age, of course, don't drink if you're underage, but stuff like that. And you go and you just start chatting. There's usually a talk. A local business owner will give a chat about their industry. Like I went one time and this guy was talking about AC compressors and stuff like that because he was in the heating and air business, and I didn't have much need for a talk about heating and AC and HVAC and that sort of stuff that particular time, but it was at least pretty cool, and it got the conversation started, and I got to talk to him and I say, hey, great presentation, I really like X, Y, and Z. And yeah, there's usually a small event there, but most of the time it's just networking. And what networking looks like is you're just going around talking to people. Be sure to bring some business cards. If you don't have any business cards, you can order them on Vistaprint for 15-20 bucks. That's where we go for our cards. So get some business cards, make a nice little design, and start just handing them out. Talking to people, and especially if you're young, like if you're under 18 and you're getting up, a lot of people really like to see that. Older business owners especially, because a lot of them started their businesses when they were very young, maybe 18 or even younger. And even if you aren't under 18, that kind of 18 to 30 demographic, the young adult entrepreneur club is very, very visible, I guess you can say, or people will notice when you walk in if you're young and you say that you're here for the Chamber of Commerce, because these older business owners want to know young business owners as well, because they're the next breed, they're the next wave of entrepreneurs that are going to continue to see the Chamber of Commerce through another phase of, evolution and that sort of thing. So I'm getting off topic there, but needless to say, when you get in there, start talking to people. Usually people are very, very warm. You can start surveying people, and you'll see people from all sorts of walks of life. You'll see landscaping companies, you'll see HVAC companies, you'll see insurance, you'll see software companies like myself. So there's all sorts of stuff that you can tap there, all sorts of knowledge that you can tap. And one thing that you can do at these Chamber of Commerce events is, as you're talking to people, just kind of let them know, hey, I'm new to the game, I'm starting my first business, and I was wondering what's the process for incorporation, or how did you go about incorporating your business? And they're going to tell you a long spiel. It's like, oh, I incorporated LLC, or I incorporated Type C, or Type S, or Type B if you're a nonprofit. And so they'll give you some information. They'll probably give you the name of an accountant or somebody that can do it for you. So that's always good to have on hand. But as you start to talk to people, they can give you more purview into the local regulations that are required to operate a business in your state or in your city. And once you have kind of a better picture of that, you can kind of start to get a price estimate. Like in the state of Texas, it costs $300 to register with the Secretary of State and the comptroller to register your business. But in some states, it doesn't cost anything. Some states it costs $75. So I happen to live in Texas and we do business in Texas, so we got a higher end, but Texas has a lot of benefits for business. Texas is a very pro-business state. And that's a good thing, so I don't mind paying a little bit extra. And one thing I wouldn't recommend is don't go too far down the rabbit hole of like the legal ramifications, because every lawyer, or I don't want to say every lawyer, but there are a lot of lawyers that are going to spin it one way and they say, oh, you should incorporate in this state, and then you use a registered agent to do this. In software specifically, a lot of people will tell you to incorporate in Delaware and use a registered agent out of Delaware. But we live in Texas, my company, we live in Texas, and Texas's regulations are pretty much on par with Delaware, so we just incorporated here and we don't have to pay the registered agent fee. So there's a lot of shindig that comes with registering a business, but keep it simple. You can always go back and change your business and your articles of incorporation later. It's hairy, but it can be done. And another thing that I would definitely recommend is if you have a friend who's an accountant, or your friend's dad, or your friend's mom, or your uncle, or somebody is an accountant, or a lawyer, or somebody, ask them about it too, because you're going to hear a lot of stuff from the Chamber of Commerce and the local peeps, and you'll want to validate that through like an actual source. And if you don't have somebody in your family that's like that, or somebody in your immediate circle that's like that, or somebody that you can tap, then you can usually talk to some of the CPAs in the area and say, hey, I'm a local business. Do you guys do any discounted rates? Or, we're just starting up. What would be the cost estimate to do this? And of course, not everybody's going to do it for free. In fact, I don't think anybody's going to do it for free, because people's time is worth money, especially CPAs and lawyers. They bill by the hour, but sometimes they're willing to work with you, especially if you're a younger entrepreneur and you're just getting started. They're willing to help you out a little bit. So definitely ask around. The worst they can say is no. And before you know it, you'll be off and running. You'll understand the local regulations that are required for your company. So that's kind of the first step when it comes to legitimizing your business, is figuring out how to incorporate, how much it's going to cost, and then you can obviously, when you're starting out, if you're making a little bit of money, you're just doing basic services for friends and family for like a reduced cost, you're testing things out, you can usually do that pretty easily in the views of the eyes of the law. I wouldn't go out and sell a whole bunch of stuff, because there is some liability when you're selling at a larger scale. If somebody gets sick eating your salsa or something like that, there is legal liability there. But if you're selling to friends and family, just getting started out, then there's not too much liability. I don't think that your friends or your family are going to come and start knocking on your door and serving you notice that you're being sued. But needless to say, one thing that my mom used to say, my mom was an entrepreneur as well, she always said that don't incorporate until you have the money and the justification to do so, because you don't want to incorporate a company, spend $300, and then it doesn't go anywhere. So once you have the money to justify incorporating, go ahead and incorporate. But until that point, if you're just working on your product, you're getting things off the ground and stuff, you're not making any money yet, it doesn't really make sense to incur the additional expense to start a company or incorporate with your state until it's absolutely necessary. So with that in mind, that was a long anecdote about getting your company legit. What incorporating does for your business is it allows your business to exist as a separate entity. And what that means is basically your business is separate from you. So like I said, in the example that you're being sued, people don't sue you and seize your personal property, they sue the company and seize the company's property. Unless there's a case of like fraud or just egregious malpractice, or like you personally did something bad, and then they can sometimes go around the company and sue you directly. But 99% of the time, if somebody is going to serve process to you, and again, that's a very rare circumstance. I don't want it just to be like a scare tactic that somebody's going to come and sue you right away. But this is the best. One of the bigger benefits of having a company is that if for whatever reason you have legal process levied against you, or you're sued, or whoever comes after you and has to question you, then it goes through the company and the company's assets, not you and your personal assets. So that's a big thing. Also, a company is able to collect its own sales tax. So based on your state, you are required to collect sales tax on any sort of sale that you make in that state. So being able to levy sales tax is an important part of it. On the federal level, you are allowed to collect federal income tax, which is something that everybody has to do. If you've ever done an income tax statement before, where you fill out your W-2 or your 1099, that is required by the federal government of all businesses. And once you have your company incorporated, the first step, or after you've incorporated with the state, the next step is to go to the federal government and get what's called an EIN number, or an employment identification number. It's free. You can do it online. It takes like a couple hours for them to register it with you, but that EIN number basically registers you with the federal government, and that's the number that you'll use to collect income tax and do all of your employee taxing and stuff like that on the federal level. So again, it varies from state to state. In the state of Texas, there is no federal or no state income tax, but on the federal level, there is an income tax. So get to know your local laws, talk to people, understand the business process, tap a local CPA or lawyer that you know if you can, and get all that kind of sorted out. So again, once you have your company, the company is a separate entity. If something bad were to happen, they sue the company and not you. And there's a couple other rights that are given to you as owning a company. And once you have a company, the next step is to kind of start getting into the habit of doing due diligence around accounting for that company. And doing accounting for your company is different from doing your own personal accounting because you have stuff like expenses and you have to categorize expenses, and I'll do that in another video. That'll probably be the next video, is just basic business accounting. But the takeaway for this video is get to know your local business bodies, get to know your Chamber of Commerce, figure out how you're going to incorporate, what it's going to cost, and then start working at it. Again, don't incorporate if there's no reason to. Like if you aren't making any money, it doesn't make sense to pay the extra couple bucks to incorporate yet. But if you're starting to make a little bit of money, you're doing a little bit of stuff on the side, your family and friends, you're selling to them and they're saying it's good, then put a little bit of that money away to incorporate so that you get the legal protection and all the benefits of having a legitimate incorporated company. So yeah, that was today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, leave a like. If you didn't, leave a dislike. And if you want to continue the conversation, leave a comment down below. And stay tuned for next Startup Saturday. Next Saturday, we will be talking about some basic business accounting. So I can't wait for you guys to see that, and we get to dive into that topic. But before we get into that, we'll have to finish up this video in the normal way, and that is by me saying, always remember, friends, that you are wanted, you are loved, and you are appreciated. You have a special talent that nobody else has, and the world is waiting on you to bring it out. So muster a little courage, go out into the world, and change it. That's what the world's waiting on you.